Chapter 37. Conscience. People confuse conscience with intelligence or with intellect, and the very intelligent or intellectual person is called a conscious person. We affirm that conscience in man, beyond any doubt and without any fear of fooling ourselves, is a very particular type of understanding of internal knowledge, totally independent of all mental activity. The faculty of conscience permits us the knowledge of ourselves. Conscience gives us integral knowledge of what is, where it is, what is really known, what is certainly ignored. Revolutionary psychology teaches that only man himself can know his own conscience and whether it exists or not at a given moment. Man himself and nobody else but himself can become aware for an instant that before that moment, he was not really conscious, that he had his conscience asleep. He will then forget that experience or keep it as a memory, as the memory of a strong experience. It is urgent to know that the conscience in the rational animal is not something continuous or permanent. Normally, the conscience in the intellectual animal, called man, sleeps profoundly. Rare, very rare, are the moments in which the conscience is awake. The intellectual animal works, drives cars, marries, dies, etc., with his conscience totally asleep, and only in very exceptional moments does it awaken. A human being's life is a life of dreams. However, he believes he is awake and will never admit that he is dreaming and that his conscience is asleep. If someone was to awaken, he would feel terribly ashamed of himself. He would immediately understand his tomfoolery, his own ridicule. This life is frightfully ridiculous, horribly tragic, and rarely sublime. If a boxer in the middle of a fight was to awaken all of a sudden, he would feel ashamed before the honorable public and would flee from the horrible spectacle before the astonishment of the asleep and unconscious multitudes. When a human being admits he has his conscience asleep, you can be sure he has already begun to awaken. The reactionary schools of old-fashioned psychology that deny the existence of the conscience and even declare the term useless reveal a most profound state of sleep. The henchmen of such schools sleep very profoundly in a practically infra- and unconscious state. Those who confuse the conscience with psychological functions, thoughts, feelings, motor impulses, and sensations are in fact very unconscious, and they sleep profoundly. Those who admit the existence of the conscience but flatly deny the different degrees of consciousness revel lack of conscious experience and sleep of the conscience. Every person who has, at least once, momentarily awakened knows very well by personal experience that different degrees of observable consciousness exist in oneself. First, time. How long did we remain conscious? Second, frequency. How many times have we awakened consciousness? Third, amplitude and penetration. What was one conscious of? Revolutionary psychology and the ancient Philokalia affirm that through super efforts of a special kind, consciousness can be awakened and made continuous and controllable. Fundamental education has the aim of awakening the conscience. 10 or 15 years of study in school, college, and university are useless if when leaving the classrooms we are sleeping machines. It is not an exaggeration to affirm that through some great effort the intellectual animal can become conscious of himself for at least a couple of minutes. Clearly, today there are rare exceptions that we must seek with the torch of Diogenes. Such rare cases are represented by the authentic men, Buddha, Jesus, Hermes, Quetzalcoatl, etc. These founders of religions possessed continuous consciousness. They were great enlightened men. Normally, people are not conscious of themselves. The illusion of being conscious in a continuous way is born from the memory and all processes of thought. A man who practices a retrospective exercise to remember his entire life can truly remember the number of times he married, how many children he begot, who his parents were, his teachers, etc. However, this does not mean awakening of consciousness. This is simply remembering unconscious actions, and that is all. It is necessary to repeat what we have said in preceding chapters. There are 4 states of consciousness: sleep, waking state, self-consciousness, and objective consciousness. The poor intellectual animal, mistakenly called man, lives in 2 of these states only. One part of his life goes by in sleep, and the other in the wrongly called waking state, which is also sleep. A man who sleeps and dreams believes that he awakens by merely returning to the waking state, but in reality, during this waking state, he continues dreaming. This is similar to sunrise. The stars become hidden due to the sunlight, but they continue to exist even when the physical eyes cannot perceive them. In normal life, a human being knows nothing of consciousness of himself and much less of objective consciousness. Nevertheless, people are proud and everyone thinks he or she is conscious of himself or herself. The intellectual animal firmly believes that he has consciousness of himself, and under no circumstances would he accept to be told that he is asleep and that he lives unconscious of himself. There are exceptional moments when the intellectual animal awakens, but these moments are very rare. They can occur in an instance of great danger, during an intense emotion, in some new circumstance, in some new unexpected situation, etc. It is truly a disgrace for the intellectual animal not to have any control over those fleeting states of consciousness, and that he cannot evoke them and make them continuous. Nevertheless, fundamental education affirms that a man can achieve control over consciousness and acquire self-consciousness. Revolutionary psychology has methods, scientific processes to awaken conscience. If we want to awaken conscience, we need to start examining, studying, and then eliminating all those obstacles that appear on the path. In this book, we have taught the path to awakening conscience starting from school desks.